And today's challenge is brake pads all around 2016 F250 6.7 power stroke. We're just going to do pads. Rotors are fine, and it should be a quick, easy swap. Okay, if you're the type who adds fluid every time it drops a millimeter below the max point, one of the things you're going to be needing is a fluid extractor, because when you compress the calipers to get the new pads in, you're going to overflow your reservoir. If you haven't added fluid, you probably won't have to deal with it, but you will want to check every time you compress the caliper just to make sure you don't overflow. Okay, to make it easy, we're going to go ahead and turn the wheel, fold to the right just to give better access to the back of the caliper. Just a quick comment on the rotor wear. Check these out previously. They are very smooth. You can see the obvious wear lines, but there's almost zero lip here. I haven't even bothered measuring this rotor because I'm sure it's fine, so there's no reason replacing this. This rotor is good for at least one more set of pads, so that's all we're doing today. Okay, and on the back there are two 16mm bolts that hold the caliper in place. So you're going to want to remove those. And the other thing, you're going to want to have a bungee cord ready to go, because you're going to want to hang your caliper off of the off your spring after you get it off, so you don't stress the brake cables. Okay, now the caliper may or may not want to come off easily, depending on how much wear you've got. A couple things you can do: you can give a little twist on the caliper to loosen up, and it'll start to compress the pistons. All right. Okay. I'll hold that so it can't possibly fall. And let's go ahead and get the old brake pads out, which should just be a matter of prying them out. Sometimes you might need to pry a little bit more than that. Okay, now that that's out, the next step I'm going to do is I'm actually going to compress the pistons back into the caliper, so that we can fit the new pads and have room to put everything back together. So to do that, you need a C-clamp of some sort. Use the old brake pad as an interface and start turning it down. It will fight you. There's a lot of fluid in there and a very small pipe to push it through, so go ahead and compress it on down. You're going to need all the room you got to, you want these pistons to be pretty much completely inside the housing so that they're really not standing out proud. If you get in a hurry, it gets harder, so just take your time. Alright, and you want to make sure you got the right parts on hand, which we've already done, of course. Got some new ceramic pads, which ought to be awesome. We got some new anti-rattle clips to replace the old ones, which are looking rusty enough to definitely replace, although you can see, well, not rusty, they're dusty. So those would actually be fine if we were going to reuse them, but might as well replace them. Also, handily, we've got new bellows for the guide pins, and so we're going to pull these out and we're going to re-lube them with the supplied high temperature lube. You want to use high temperature lube if you can do it. because on a truck like this, that's been used hard and has been pulling large boats, you can see that there's been some heat involved on that grease. So you definitely want to use the right stuff to keep it from burning up any worse than it already will. So as an arbitrary starting point, I'm just going to go ahead and start on these guide pins. Get rid of the old bellows. Looks like they're symmetrical. That's kind of nice. Wipe them down. Make sure they're not scratched or scored. And they actually look quite fine. Okay, and then we want to put the new bellows on. And just a little bit of grease. You don't have to, it doesn't really do any good to pile it on really thick here, guys, because it really just takes a microscopic coating to make it work. Okay, these can just be pushed in, and that will ensure that the caliper slides easily back and forth and self-centers. Okay, the next step, we can go ahead and take these out one at a time. And they should pry up very easily. They have little hooks that kind of hang on to the metal surface. So you can wipe down the mating surface if you like, it really won't matter. Okay, it's time to put the new clips on. You see here's a full set, and you see that these two are different from these two. The clips go to the outside. Okay, so again, this side of the clip has no protrusions, and you can see this side does. That means it goes here, so it really just pushes on there and pushes down. And then we're going to do the same with the upper one. Okay, here are the new and the old, obviously, pads, and you can see the contact points of the old ones here. And I'm going to use that as a guide for applying some disc brake quiet compound. What this does is it just helps keep your brakes from squeaking, which is a wonderful thing. So I'm just going to dab it around in the same areas that it's going to contact, in this case, the caliper, and in this case, the backing plate, the actual the plate that holds everything together in there. So this is where the pads make contact, and I'll smear it around a little bit so it's not too thick. Let it set up for a few minutes, and we'll get them installed. And while you're at it, you might as well do all of them. Okay, and you do want to make sure that you put the right side, the right pad in the right place, because you've smeared the Hey friends and neighbors, strangely enough, this new pad slid right in as it should using the old clips. Now I really didn't think the new clips were different dimensionally, but apparently there's something going on there. So it's really going to be a good idea in this case to reuse the old clips. They are not rusty, they're not worn in any really interesting respects. So I'm just going to clean them up, put the dab of grease on them like I did the other side, and reuse them. And So let's go ahead and get the caliper back on the pads and get this side done. Move on. All right, let's see. Let me just zoom out here a little bit. Okay, I'm going to be adding just a little bit of grease to the bolts that go into the slide pins. Okay, and the final step is to torque both of those bolts to 55 foot-pounds. Okay, this side is basically done, ready to put the wheel back on. We'll go start on the other side. Okay, the emergency brake is set, so I'll be able to get the lug nuts off. This tire is off the ground. Floor jack's under there. Now I just have to place a jack stand. Okay, jack stand is in place, so we are ready to get this wheel off to do the rears. Alright, next step, remove the two 16mm bolts holding the caliper in place. Now I gotta tell you folks, this one's gonna be interesting because this is in pretty tight. It's gonna make it interesting to get a torque wrench in there, but I think I'll be able to do it. Okay, next we got to try to get the caliper off of the pads, and you can try twisting it. You can just grab the caliper, give it a good twist, and it'll compress the pistons enough that you can move it out of the way. Now this one is on a very short leash, so you really want to have a bungee strap available immediately so that you don't stress out that brake line. So we're going to let this one hang. Okay, it's hanging there safely without any tension on the brake line. Now we can go ahead and get these brake pads out, which are honestly quite a bit better than the front, but it's a good idea to go ahead and swap them at the same time anyway. And again, there's no discernible lip here, just regular. There are lines, but it's smooth. So this rotor is definitely not ready to be replaced yet, and refinishing it really wouldn't buy you anything either. So let's go ahead and swap the pads out. First thing I'm going to do is check the clips. Folks, I think I'm getting to the bottom of this little mystery here. If you look at these two clips, this is the old one, obviously. This is the new one. If you look closely, you can see that this edge right here is just a little bit shorter than this one. Let me see if I can line them up. Well, it clearly is shorter. It's having a hard time showing it. Maybe this is a better angle. Look at that. You can see that this dimension here is shorter than this dimension here. So that's how come we fought with that the left front, and the right front went right in with the old clips, so I'm going to reuse the old clips on the back as well. Okay, because of clearance issues, I'm having to use a different kind of clamp to squeeze these pistons down. If you don't have one, don't sweat it. You can just push real hard, use a lever up against the brake pad and push them home. They will move very slowly if you need to move them without a clamp. Okay, next step is to pull the guide pins out. And you can see these are a little less burnt up than the fronts were. They certainly still have grease on them, but we'll clean them up, put new grease, new boots on them. Okay, I'm gonna open up the high temperature grease that came along with it. I did find out that this kit does not have new boots on it for some reason. That's kind of odd. Again, you just want just the thinnest smear of grease on these slide guide pins. So let me grease them both up. That's plenty. Okay, good to go. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of that grease to the inside slides of the old clips and install the pads over here. And again, folks, just use the tiniest bit on these inside channels here. That's all it takes. You don't really want it getting on your braking surfaces, although of course it will eventually dissipate, but there's no reason to do that if you don't have to. So, okay, they are now greased, and okay, it's time to put the pads back in, and I'm guessing it's going to go a whole lot easier with these old clips than it did with the new clip up front. Okay, that one's in. Make sure that you know which one is which. This is the one that grabs the fingers of the caliper, and the piston's right on the back, so you want to use the pad that's got the goop for the back in the back. So this one's a little harder to place, particularly if there's a camera in the way. But there it is. Okay, that was a whole lot easier to front, folks. All right, we're now ready to reinstall the caliper. Okay, I've added just a little bit of grease on the caliper mounting bolts, because that's how I roll. Those of you who live in the frozen north might really want to take that advice. So we are ready to slide this back into place. Let's get that out of the way. Now, if I've expanded the caliper enough, it should just slide right on. And you might have to push in the little the guide pins to make sure you can clear the posts. Okay, using a smaller torque wrench on the bolts because of access. So these are torqued to 55 foot-pounds. Okay, this one's good to go, ready to put the wheel back on. Okay, it's on the ground. All 4 sets of brake pads have been swapped. Everything's good. And you remember this reservoir that was down toward the minimum, possibly even below it? It's now chocker block full. So that's why you don't add fluid in between brake pad changes, because you'll end up overflowing it. So we're good to go. I'll go ahead and tighten down the cap. And the other thing I want to add is, before you drive the truck, pump the brakes, because I can tell you there's a whole lot of sponge there. And all right, it's already firming up, so we'll get the truck started, give it a couple good mashes just to make sure everything's fully ready to go. We should have dropped the fluid level. Yes, indeed, it did drop right down to exactly the max point there. So you are moving fluid around when you're doing this, folks, so keep that in mind.